Blinkist is the app that helps you become a more well-rounded person by letting you read or listen to an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. You can try it for free and get 25% off a subscription by going to Blinkist.com/David Pakman. We have so much to talk about today, so let's get right into it. Last night was a special primary election in Ohio's 11th district, and it has ended up as a major, major disappointment for the activist left. I'm going to give you my analysis. First, we will look at the results, and unfortunately, I'm reading a lot of what I think are, I would just call them overly dramatic analyses about this race from some on the left. So I'll give you my sense of what I think happened in a moment. Let's first look at the results. Again, this was the Ohio special election primary, the 11th congressional district Democratic primary. This was an election to replace Marcia Fudge, who joined Joe Biden's cabinet. Now, the establishment candidate, the candidate anointed by the establishment Democratic Party was Shontel Brown. There were hopes that activist Nina Turner would come out ahead, and it did not go that way. As of this moment, the results were last updated very early this morning, so nothing's changed for some time. Shontel Brown coming out ahead of Nina Turner by about 6 points, just a hair under 6 points, only about 4,200 votes separating the two. Remember, this was a Democratic primary in the 11th congressional district, so a relatively small electorate. So those are the results. And I want to give you my analysis of what took place. But first, I want to talk about some analyses that I think are just missing the mark here. There are narratives being pushed about what happened here in certain circles that just don't make sense to me. I'm not against these being possible analyses, but when I look at them, they don't make sense. One is this was a racist thing against Nina Turner. Now, if you look, you would notice that Shontel Brown, Nina Turner's opponent who won, is also black. So it just being racism, which I've seen a couple of hot takes, just doesn't make sense to me. So then when you dig deeper, some people will say, well, what we mean by that is Shontel Brown is not as black as Nina Turner in a lot of ways. That's a really weird argument to hear people on the left making. It sounds sort of colorist to me. And I understand what they may mean by that is that Nina Turner has more issues of particular concern to the black community as part of her platform than Shontel Brown. But to say Shontel Brown is not really as black as Nina Turner, that's a very weird thing. I can't get behind that. So then it gets to, well, Shontel Brown had significantly more white supporters. That's what we mean. Whites who didn't vote for Nina because she's black, but they voted for Shontel Brown despite Shontel Brown being black. That's really weird to me. And again, most of the district is black. This is it's like 53. We'll look at the numbers in a sec. 54% black district. That's a strange thing to say to me. That doesn't really make sense. So then another one I'm seeing is that Israel picked Shontel Brown and Israel funded Shontel Brown because Nina Turner is for Palestinian rights. This one's also kind of weird. And, you know, there aren't that many Jews in that district. It's a mostly black district, 54%. Some of the white voters are Jewish, and some of them are Democrats, and some of them voted in the Democratic primary. So I think what they're getting at is that a group called the Democratic Majority for Israel supported Brown over Nina Turner, and that's true. Now, there's the perception, rightly or wrongly, that Nina Turner is like against Israel's existence. I've not seen evidence of that, and Nina Turner has denied that. Nina Turner also came out against the BDS movement, but she's also against legislation to curb BDS. Nina Turner said she's okay with military aid to Israel, but wants it to be conditional. She tweeted "end apartheid" during the last flare-up, and that's a controversial term when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We don't have to adjudicate it, and it's controversial in some circles. So the truth is that group did support Shontel Brown. That's accurate. Now, to go further and say this has Israel's hands all over it starts to get conspiratorial, and it borders on an anti-Semitic trope. This particular group, which is an American group, supported Shontel Brown. That's true. to say Israel picked Shontel Brown over Nina Turner starts to get a little bit anti-Semitic. So what do I really think happened? I think that the explanation here is really boring. I think Ohio Democrats are mostly relatively okay with Bidenism for now. Now, you might say they wrongly think Bidenism is good for them. That's okay. You can make that argument. But as far as they're concerned, I think they're more or less okay with Bidenism right now, and they pick the candidate that's sort of more in line with Bidenism. I really think it's that simple. This is a district that's mostly black, mostly working class without college degrees, median household income of $42,000. That's well below the national median. And they're just sort of okay with a more moderate approach. It is Ohio, after all. Now, one other thing. There are claims that Brown went negative with lies against Nina Turner. But that actually, there was some of that on both sides. There was a Nina Turner ad in the final days of the race, which claimed that Shontel Brown is under an ethics investigation, which was asserted without evidence. Now that there may be an investigation, but there was mudslinging on both sides. So to me, this is not this incredible crossing the Rubicon, black swan type of event. It's really similar to Bernie versus Biden. I would like the Democratic Party to be more progressive than the average voter actually is. If you looked on Reddit and Twitter, it seemed like Bernie had a lot more support than he ultimately did. Likewise, if you looked on Reddit and Twitter, it looked like Nina Turner had a lot more support than she actually did. Turner did pretty well. She lost by 6. In the end, right now, this Ohio district is relatively happy with a Biden sort of Democrat, and they elected someone along those lines. I think it's that simple, and I'm glad to have my mind changed if folks disagree. All right, very big news yesterday, and we have to give praise to Congresswoman Cori Bush for really pushing for this. I would call this a progressive victory of sorts, even though it may be struck down by the Supreme Court relatively quickly. The CDC has extended the eviction moratorium. We talked about this last week. We talked about this a bunch of times because it's a really important issue. The CDC has issued a new eviction ban based on the pandemic, effective through October 3rd. The former moratorium expired last month, as we covered. There were 11 million Americans behind on rent as the Delta variant surges. This will be targeted at areas of the country experiencing high levels of infection from coronavirus. It will last 60 days until October 3rd, and the protection could cover around 90% of renters. Now, this may be struck down, and I think that I'm giving you both sides of it. This is really a progressive victory, and Cori Bush deserves a lot of credit. She was instrumental in pushing this to happen. At the same time, there is a big Supreme Court threat that this will not hold. There's a Politico article which calls it a potential clash with the Supreme Court. And what's at issue here is whether the CDC really has the authority to do this. And it may well, the answer that the Supreme Court comes up with may be no. Joe Biden yesterday said he went to constitutional scholars to find out about the CDC's legal authority and what they do that is most likely to pass muster constitutionally. And Biden said the bulk of the scholarship suggested this would not pass muster in the courts, but there were some scholars that said it could. This targeted moratorium comes after the White House insisted for days that the CDC doesn't have the authority to act and that Congress must pass an extension. The House has left for a multi-week recess after failing to pass an extension, with Pelosi and other top Democrats furious at the White House for putting this at their feet. So bottom line, this may not hold. It appears as though the opinion of the Supreme Court is that the CDC cannot do an eviction moratorium, that it must come from Congress, and Congress is out of session. Let's hope that's not the way it goes down, but I think we have to be prepared for the reality that it may. Of course, this is an absolutely crucial thing to do. There are people who, even in normal, non-pandemic situations, can't afford an unexpected $400 expense. Something like half the country can't. So if you have 2, 3, 4, 5, even more months of rent stacking up, and all of a sudden the protection against getting evicted goes away, you are at real risk of getting evicted. Now, just one other thing. I don't believe that nearly the 11 million or even 8 or 9 million would actually get evicted. There are things taking place at the state level There are other programs that are available to some of these people. So the number really at risk of getting evicted, like in the next month, was nowhere near the 11 million. It doesn't change the importance and significance of doing this. And now we have to see if it will hold up in court. Let me know your thoughts. You can find me on Twitter at dpacman. Remember that Monday, August 16th is the 16th anniversary of the show, and we'll be doing a big membership special. If you'd like to be notified about it with instructions on how to take advantage, get on my newsletter at davidpacman.com. What if you could read 10 books in just one sitting? That's exactly what one of my favorite apps lets you do. It's called Blinkist, and what they do is take thousands of popular nonfiction books. They condense them down into text or audio that you can consume in 15 minutes. Blinkist makes sure that you're getting all of the important core insights from each book. So it's perfect for exploring a book you otherwise wouldn't have time for. If there's a full book you're thinking about buying, you can use Blinkist to get a sample first. Just think how much you can enrich yourself by being able to soak up an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month. And you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/David Pacman. I've put the link right underneath this video. So many things happening from the standpoint of vaccine requirements and mandates. The big news yesterday is that New York City will be mandating vaccines if you want to go to restaurants, if you want to go to gyms, and if you want to go to most indoor entertainment type venues. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio mandating COVID vaccines for certain indoor activities. The order goes into effect August 16th with full enforcement starting September 13th. De Blasio says the mandate, known as the Key to NYC Pass, would encourage increased immunizations to combat the spread of the Delta coronavirus variant. The mayor's order comes a day after de Blasio mandated vaccinations for all of the city's new hires. De Blasio added the city will begin inspecting businesses for compliance in mid-September. All affected customers and workers can either provide their vaccination cards or upload proof of vaccination to the Excelsior Pass application. New York City is thought to be the first in the nation to implement such a mandate. Joe Biden responded affirmatively when asked at a press conference yesterday if he believed other cities should follow suit. But stakeholders across the food industry raised concerns about how the program will work. They are overwhelmingly concerned about, they're saying, listen, this is not like checking an ID to make sure someone's really 21 before you serve them alcohol. This is much more invasive. It's going to really affect restaurants. But needless to say, de Blasio's going forward with it. I believe it will encourage more people to get vaccinated. Here is Bill de Blasio talking about this yesterday during a press conference.
This is crucial because we know that this will encourage a lot more vaccination. We've seen it already. We've seen the impact of the mandate we've put in place for city workers already starting to move people to vaccination. We've obviously seen the positive impact of incentive as well. The goal here is to convince everyone that this is the time. If we're going to stop the Delta variant, the time is now. And that means getting vaccinated right now. This new policy will be phased in over the coming weeks. So we've been working with the business community, getting input. We're going to do more over the next few weeks. The final details of the policy will be announced and implemented in the week of August 16th.
Okay, so without question, this is happening. The questions are, how is it going to be implemented and how is it going to be enforced? New York Times also writing, New York City will require workers and customers to show proof of at least one dose for indoor dining and other activities. We are seeing other examples of this as well. A growing number of Los Angeles restaurants and bars are themselves requiring proof of COVID-19 vaccination. Microsoft will require proof of vaccination to enter their buildings in the United States. The full opening of its offices will be no earlier than October 4th, so they've got a couple of months. Tyson Foods will be mandating vaccines for its U.S. workforce. We know that food processing plants were big points of spread relatively early in the pandemic. So this is happening. The questions are, how will the enforcement work? And I know a lot of you have been emailing me saying, David, it's really easy to forge vaccine cards. It's not only easy theoretically, it's already happening. We already are aware of all sorts of stories of people having and presenting fake vaccine cards. So there's no doubt that it will happen to some degree. But the point here is, you put a social insurance system in place. There will be some people who misuse it, but does it do good at the macro level? You put something like this in place. Will some people lie about being vaccinated and get away with it? Yes, but they're already not vaccinated. If you incentivize a bunch of people to go and do it, we are slowing the spread and hopefully getting beyond the pandemic. So it's happening. We will see how it all rolls out. And there is no doubt that you will continue to see protests and more. There are some who are calling this Nazi-like, and we will get to that a little bit later. Continuing our sort of tour of the news here, it is now time for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign. That is my view. Joe Biden said the same yesterday, and many others as well. He has been now accused and investigated for sexually harassing multiple women. We now have the results of an investigation. CNBC summarizes it. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women who worked for the state and elsewhere, according to a report by State Attorney General Letitia James. The investigation concluded Cuomo, quote, violated federal and state law, James said at a press conference. Cuomo then retaliated against a former employee who complained publicly about his conduct, according to the report. The probe into numerous women's allegations of sexual harassment by Cuomo started in March after the state's executive chamber granted James's request to investigate. Further coverage of this. Albany DA criminally investigating Cuomo asks any victim of New York governor sexual harassment to contact office. The DA of Albany County said his office is criminally investigating Cuomo. DA David Soares said his office would welcome any victim to contact our office with additional information about Cuomo. Soares said he plans to request investigative materials from the state attorney general's probe of the alleged harassment of 11 women. So listen, for people who were saying, oh, David, you partisan shill and you'll, but, no, hold on, guys. We're going to have the same standard here for left and right. Earlier, there were allegations and an investigation started. And at that time, I said, let's see what the investigation finds. We now have an investigation that appears to have been done without obvious political bias of some kind, where the investigation's results would not be trustworthy. So although there have not been criminal charges here, the investigation is credible. And this, in my view, now encumbers Andrew Cuomo's ability to just be the governor to such a degree that I believe it is time for him to resign. I don't find myself even needing to say much more about it. It's just time for him to resign. Now, interestingly, he put out an 85 page written response. There's only 26 pages of text, and a lot of the pages are just pictures of Andrew Cuomo in various types of embrace with different figures, including Joe Biden, with his mom, Matilda Cuomo, with hurricane victim Sandra Patterson. It's basically, this is an example of George W. Bush embracing hurricane victim Sandra Patterson, sort of saying, listen, this type of hugging is not a big deal. Lots of people do it. Here's Barack Obama hugging Hillary Clinton. It's really just not a big deal. Also taking the approach in a video that he put out of just saying, this is how I interact with people. I just hug people. There's nothing inappropriate about it, which is, it's sort of like an affirmative defense. He's not denying the contact with the women. He's just saying, this is no big deal.
I do it with everyone.
Right.
Black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street.
So I think it's an interesting approach. I don't think Andrew Cuomo survives this. and he should resign at this time. If you disagree with me, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com and use the coupon code BETTER21 for a huge discount. Joinpakman.com. All right, today we're going to be speaking with Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell will be a familiar face and name to many in our audience, CEO and inventor of MyPillow. Mike, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So listen, you first came to my attention. I first became aware of you at the start of the pandemic. Donald Trump held this event at the White House and announced, here are some business people that are going to be doing things to help us. You were going to be, if I recall correctly, making masks and maybe even some other things. How did you first come to meet Donald Trump and that relationship start?
Well, it was the summer of 2016. He invited me to Trump Tower. It was August 15, 2016. It was a private meeting. I went in there. It was about 35 minutes, just him and I walked out of there, and I come from a past of addiction and stuff. I didn't think politics affected anything, but I did walk out of his office and said, he's going to be the greatest president ever. If he's with all the things we talked about, MyPillow being made in the USA. I said I was going to have a platform at which I do, the Lindell Recovery Network.org, which helps addicts. And he said, I'm going to stop the drugs pouring in. And we just had this back and forth. And I went to his employees afterwards, and I asked them, I kind of did my due diligence. I'm going, is this real? I mean, the only agenda he had was to help our country and to help people. And that's and they all said, yes, he's an amazing boss, amazing man. And they all had a personal story about him. And then, boy, I got back to Minnesota and I did a press release, and you didn't think I shot someone. They attacked me and called me a racist and called me everything. And all I did was say I had a meeting with Donald Trump that was running for president.
You, at that event at the White House that I mentioned at the start of the pandemic, you said that Donald Trump was, quote, chosen by God. How did God reveal to you that he had chosen Trump?
Well, it was a bunch of divine appointments for me. I had a dream in the spring of 2015 that I'd be meeting Donald Trump, and I'm going, why would I want to meet Donald Trump? And all of a sudden, he comes down the escalator running for president. Then in my book, I explain all this. I actually went to the National Prayer Breakfast in early 2016, and when Ben Carson was still running for office, and I was picked out of 12 people out of the whole prayer breakfast with thousands there to pray with Ben Carson in a room. And just these things kept happening to me, and it was like building up, and I'm going, this all has to mean something. And it wouldn't mean that I just end up going golfing with Donald Trump or something. There was so many divine appointments that led up to that. And then it was something different, something that, because I had met him, I just know this all these things that happen. I look at to know that God exists. I use mathematics and say, if you have a 1 in a million happen, or a 1 in a billion, or this thing happens that could never happen, when do you add them together and consider a miracle? And that's what kept happening to me. And he's been picked, he has been chosen for such a time as this.
Wow. So if I hear you correctly, you're saying what others might see as odds and probability, you see as divine appointment.
Absolutely. Because
wow.
If you look at it, especially when there's more than one, and then there's confirmations of that.
Wow.
Here's a guy, for me, being just an ex-addict from Minnesota, a guy, very functioning addict, growing up again. And here I end up in the White House. I'll tell you an example. So I end up in the White House at a roundtable event. I never thought I could come within 100 yards of the White House with my past.
I see. I see.
And here I end up in the White House. I said, who's sitting here? And they go, the president. There's like 15 of us in the room. First time I was ever in the White House, and they do that. We go on national TV. Then it's just him and I facing forward. and it went viral, that screenshot, and all my friends are going, what is this ex-crack addict sitting next to the president of the United States? Jesus is real, because this could not happen.
This makes no sense, right? In other words, it's almost like Mike Lindell, pillow guy, being at the White House makes such little sense. It must be divine intervention.
Absolutely. And it's,
Wow.
It's just like when I spoke at the Rose Garden there, when I had went there, and we did start making masks. I had got a letter from the White House saying, would you come in and, because we had started making masks. We were one of the first ones, I believe, in the country. And we get there, and he's going to have us all speak from the Rose Garden, and you have to have pre-approved remarks. And if I told you the whole story, I mean, it's just, it's divine how everything went down.
That's
Even me
something.
sitting in the front row
Right.
was things that couldn't happen. That was a series of events happened there where I ended up being the only one on stage with him, and then asked him if I could say something off the cuff, and flipped this paper over, and then spoke out about
I remember.
our Bibles, getting back in the Word, and it
Yeah.
if you would think there, I mean, that was heard around the world. I did 109 interviews in 5 days.
Well, Mike, listen. There's so many things I want to ask you about. Let me do a few that are sort of like shorter things. One is in terms of states that were given to Joe Biden that you believe Donald Trump won. How extensive is that list?
It's huge, and it's absolutely huge. And not that I know he won, because we have all the packet captures and the data from the whole election.
We'll get to that.
Minnesota, New Hampshire, all the swing states we talk about, Nevada, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And I mean, the list goes on and on. It's there are very few that Biden won, less than 10.
At one point I heard you say you believe Trump even won California. Do you still believe that?
That's correct, and we're going to reveal that at the Cyber Symposium. I'm happy. These are going to be, we actually will have the data to back that up.
What's the math of, just to pick one, Mike, for people to understand? California has 22 million registered voters. 10 million are Democrats, and there's 5 million Republicans. How did Trump win California?
I didn't say one for sure. We're going to reveal that at the symposium. Let's use Minnesota.
Okay.
My home state. They are losing Minnesota by 100,000 votes. Now, I went around all over, and everyone say, "Oh, Minneapolis and all." We only have like 2 big cities, Duluth and Minneapolis, St. Paul, and it's all Democrats supposedly, right? And all our northern Minnesota Democrat. Well, that's the past, everybody. That ship sailed. Those were traditional Democrats, a lot of them.
Wow.
And Minnesota, the actual number, Minnesota won. Donald Trump won by 65,000. And we will show this too at this symposium.
Yeah.
This is facts. These are facts. And how did that happen? Because it doesn't matter where the past, everything changed with Donald Trump. People are voting. I believe people are voting they want politicians that are for the people. That think, and Donald Trump did stuff for all people. If you get to this great place we were in December of 2019, I think everyone, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, realizes that that month, that was a manifestation of a couple years of decisions being made by politicians, i.e. Donald Trump. And those common sense decisions that made, here's a problem, here's a solution, how will it help people, all people, not just their party or a personal agenda. And and we've seen that. It was just awesome that everyone in this country got to experience that, what political decisions could manifest to. And man, everything was great. We had highest consumer confidence, lowest gas prices, lowest unemployment. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Stock market high. I mean, across the board. Those were because of political decisions, everybody.
I want to focus in on the election piece just so we kind of keep that path forward. There are some, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, while she believes there were problems with the election, she says Trump is not coming back. It is false hope to believe he will be reinstated. You've said August or September. Do you still believe that, and what's the mechanism?
100% I believe that. And
wow.
That she's misconstrued. I mean, there's a couple things here. We're having the Cyber Symposium. After that, that's August 10th, 11th,
Yes.
and 12th. Everybody's going to watch this. I want it to be the biggest watched event in history.
Yep.
Billion people. You watch that, and you're going to see the packet captures and data from the whole election. This is non-subjective evidence, everybody. It's what I've had for months now. And I've been trying to get the word out, but let's just cancel Mike Lindell and MyPillow. I've been trying to get the word out. Now this gets out. We've had it ready for the Supreme Court. It's called a quo warranto. We bring that to the Supreme Court, and everyone says, well, they're not going to bring back Donald Trump. Yes, they are. Here's why.
So hold on, Mike, I want to hear it, but I want to make sure the audience doesn't miss it. The Supreme Court is the mechanism that will bring him back, you're saying?
There's more than one, but I'm giving you the first one.
Okay.
The easiest one.
Okay.
The easiest one. When we get through the Cyber Symposium, which everybody needs to tell everybody to watch, this is so important because these 9 Supreme Court justices, they're people too. They've lived the American dream. They have families, they have children, grandchildren, friends, family. Everyone needs to watch this because it shows that this was an attack by China on our country. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. I said on Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy said, if it was reversed, Mike, would you do the same thing? Absolutely, I would. This is an attack on our country. So what happens is in our country's history, every elected official, everyone that you find out later there was a crime committed, i.e. election fraud, the real winner gets put back in. It's happened every single election. Now, that's never happened at the presidential level.
Right. That's
the only difference. So there is precedence, but also you combine this is an attack by China. This was a very, 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 it's an act of war, basically, is what it is. They've attacked us, and the Democrats warned us of this, everybody. They warned us, from my Senator Amy Klobuchar to Kamala Harris. They all warned us about this cyber attack, about going through the machines and taking our country without guns. And they just happen to use the Democrat Party. So no matter who you are, we go back to now. The Supreme Court's going to get this.
Yeah.
We're going to give it probably late August. And now what they do with it, I'm not the Supreme Court, but they'll have some options. They might pull it down and put Donald Trump in right away because its evidence is non-subjective. 100%.
I see.
Or because all the down tickets were affected too. Many, many down tickets. Maybe the Supreme Court, I'm just putting it out there, has a whole new election.
Wow.
Now you say, well, how could we have a new election with these machines? We can't. But at the symposium on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of August, remember, it's live streamed on Frank's Speech worldwide.
Of course.
And worldwide, frankspeech.com. We're going to live stream it 72 hours straight. We're going to unveil a replacement for the machines. And everyone says, well, Mike, are you going to do that? Now you're going to show this is just a money thing so you can make money? No, we're giving the technology away to all companies. So
I want to go one thing because there's so much here. My head is literally spinning here, Mike. Just to show how confident you are that this reinstatement would happen. Would you want to make a financial bet with me on it? Because I just don't see it, and I want to prove to people just how confident you are. Would you want to put $25,000 up against me on it that by the end of September Trump is reinstated?
One of my addictions was gambling.
Ah.
Okay. But I will tell you this. I put up $5 million a prize at the Cyber Symposium. $5 million for anyone that's there. Which is we have over 100 cyber forensic experts from around the country and a couple from out of this country.
What does that mean? A cyber forensic? What's that credential? A cyber forensic expert?
They have CISSP, but it's more than that. These are guys that protect our country. A lot of them work for the government. When you have a cyber attack, these are experts that can read these packet captures, that can just, what actually happened. It shows where the attack came from, the computer that was intruded, how many votes were flipped. They're going to read all this during the 72 hours. We're going to go through all 50 states. And a packet capture, everybody, is like a picture you can't change. You can't alter.
That's true. But Mike, and this is so important because I saw the packet captures and I saw the numbers, and I went to, in preparation for the interview, to be thorough, I went to some cyber experts on this. What they told me is that what you previewed, I don't remember if it was on Frank's Speech or on Newsmax or where it was a couple weeks ago, but you showed the numbers scrolling. They said that's absolutely meaningless, that those are called hex dumps, and it's just a way to look at computer memory?
We just put B-roll out there. Those aren't the captures. So we put B-roll. Those are from the election.
Those are
every single outlet, including CNN. I just did a 2.5-hour interview with them about 4 days ago.
Okay.
That's to show you what this data, if you're any kind of a cyber guy, you can decipher and say, well, that was from the 2020 election.
Okay.
Your guy should have told you that.
So what you're saying is what you put up there is the style of what you will be unveiling at the symposium, but it is not the actual data.
Those were actual data.
It was actual data.
That was actual data. 100% actual data. So if you talk to guys, that wasn't packet captured. That was data from the packet captures that were captured. So what we're going to do at the Cyber Symposium, you're going to be able to go up to, imagine this, we're going to have on stage, we're going to have a panel, and we're going to go just like election night. And the state of New Hampshire goes to Donald Trump.
Whoa.
So this will be the real election, okay?
Wow.
And to the side of the stage, we have a cyber center. Any of these politicians or the media, you're invited yourself, David, if you want to come. And then you can get your $5 million prize. You can bring your own cyber guys. Absolutely. If you're beside the stage, you'll be able to punch in a state or a county or the whole election. If you punch in the whole election, you got Donald Trump winning 80 million to 68 million. But now you do this. Now listen, we're going to have these 100 cyber guys that came from all over the country. None of them know each other. They were, we invited, and they've called in, we've vetted them that they're good. They're the best. Okay. So they're going to divide up into groups, like let's say 8 to a group, and we're going to give them a state. Here's the state of Georgia. Here's the raw data. And they're going to sit there and make sure 100% that what I'm telling you is the truth.
They'll go through it.
And they're going to go through it live.
I see.
And then we're going to have them on the stage, and they're going to have the people. It's like reading a language. Let's say this was all written in Chinese. You'd have to have people there that could read the Chinese and say, "Yep, this is what it says." Now, since it's non-subjective, every cyber guy will say the exact same thing. And when you're watching that from home. Now, when you're watching that, anybody cyber guy or anybody in the world that sees this will be 100%. Not 92%. By the time the symposium is over, everyone, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, are going to go,
wow,
we need to do something now. This was an attack by China. This is real. These heroes that captured this information, which is these packet captures, our government should have been doing this because the Democrats weren't it. But you don't, they said, none of the machines were online. So why would it'd be like getting flood insurance when you say, hey, there's not going to be any water. What they lied to us, they lied to the American people.
So I'm out of breath from all of this information that you're giving me, Mike. There's a couple other things I want to get to, and maybe I know your time is short, so maybe we can keep these short. I am not a Christian, so I may not be in a position to understand this, but if Donald Trump was selected by God, as you are certain that he was, why would God allow Joe Biden to even become president and force you to go through all of this? Why not just put Trump in the White House again?
Well, I believe that's part of this divine thing that's going on, because people don't look. Let me tell you, people do not look for hope unless things are going bad. And that's why I believe this will be the greatest revival for Jesus, and we will be once again one nation under God ever, because all these people, including yourself, are going to see miracles unfold here.
Mike, are you saying even a Jewish guy like me will see Jesus?
Okay. What's that?
Even a Jewish guy like me.
You're going to see miracles. You're going to see miracles unfold. You're going to see miracles unfold. You can believe whatever you want, but you're going to see things that you thought were impossible happen. And you're saying, you asked me, why would God let this happen? Yeah. Well, people don't look for, I'll give an example. I was in about 2 years ago, I was with a guy, and he goes, Mike, our nation has turned its back on God. People have turned its back on him. And he says, people aren't looking for God unless things bad happen. And he goes, it's something like the Great Depression. And I said, no. In the Great Depression, they had God. They were just praying for food and shelter. I said, we have something better than that. I said, we have addiction. I said, so this is when I set up my LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. I said, when you're in addiction, you're looking for hope. You're looking out there. You need, and it's about your soul. It's about salvation. You're praying, okay? But then along came the China virus, the pandemic, and then came this election. Everybody is seeing what is going on now. I have Democrat friends of mine and liberal friends of mine. I talk to them and they go, wow. I can't believe this. Mike, you were right. This is a manifestation of socialism. I'm not blaming the Democrat Party. I'm saying that the China picked them and they used them. And you're going to see this at the symposium.
I see.
So you're going to see these, when people say, well, straightening out our country. I'll give you an example too, David. When Jimmy Kimmel said to me in his attack, he said, Mike, would you do it if it was reversed? I said, of course, this isn't about Donald Trump. I said, this is about saving our country with China and these machines. This is about saving not just our country, but the world. All these other countries are worried too. We are in an age where it's cyber attacks. This is computers that can take your country. And you know what happened after that? They came back, the Washington Post and all these outlets came to Minnesota and asked my friends and people from my past, come on, would Mike really be sounding the alarm if Donald Trump, if they'd have picked him, China picked him? Every one of them said, yes, David. Do you think they did a story on that? No.
Wow.
Every one of them, because you know what? This is about our country. This is about elections. It doesn't matter who won or lost it. When your vote didn't matter, and you're going to see that at the Cyber Symposium. Whoa. Nobody's vote mattered during that. Nobody's vote mattered. They used the 2010 census report. That's why you have so many rural counties where double the people voted that even live in the county. And these are done on a total separate thing here with mathematics.
Yeah.
That we could then approve this.
Mike, there's this incredible image of you in the aftermath of the election, leaving the White House, and a zoomed in picture sees you carrying a paper that says martial law on it. Who raised the topic of martial law in that meeting with Trump?
Well, let me see. Now, if you'd have done your due diligence on that, David, I said I was bringing him the evidence I got on January 9th, this cyber evidence that I got brought to me on January 9th.
Okay.
That was 4 pages. These other lawyers had given me 2 pages to give to him. I had never even read it. I didn't know what was on it. That got opened up. It never got talked about in the Oval Office. That's a very famous story there. I brought in the evidence.
This is why I'm asking you. Yeah.
Yeah, but he said, bring this upstairs. The lawyers brought me upstairs. Now the sheets were over. They gave me the sheets back, and I was outside the back end, and then they seen that martial law in there. It was never brought up in the Oval Office. It was and he didn't. And the sheets were given back, and I brought upstairs to his attorneys, which shooed me out of the White House.
Okay, that's why I'm asking to get the story straight from you. 2 other real quick. Yeah.
You know what?
Yes.
But that was so important. You know why?
Yeah.
Because no media would talk to Mike Lindell. So from that point on, every single day I was attacked by bots and trolls. My retailers are gone. On my shopping channels, they attacked Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Dominion sued over 200 people and used lawfare in our country to where last week I just had to dump Fox. Shame on Fox News. I've had to use all the left-wing media. Every day they have my direct number. I get calls from morning to night. But you know what? They bash me and they attack me. But at least I get to talk about the truth, which is China attacked our country and stole our election from the American people.
Last 2 things. 1, do you have voting machines in your possession somewhere?
2, yes, we do.
You do. And how many of them?
I don't know that. I have no idea. We're going to have, that's another thing we're going to have at the Cyber Symposium. We're going to show you mock elections. We're going to have random cyber people put in a soundproof room. We're going to capture the packets, which are in the routers.
Of course.
That's why Arizona won't give up the routers.
Strong routers, yeah. Where did you get the voting machines? Where did you get them?
I don't know. Lawyers got them. Believe me, they were got legal. You can buy them on eBay there, David. Why don't you buy a couple?
I don't have any use for them, quite frankly. Last thing, Mike, Frank's speech, it was billed as it will be the new revolutionary social website. When I check it, it's just like a video of you talking. What's going on with that?
No, that's Lindell TV. That's correct. You're very incorrect. If you go there, there's thousands of these are all voice. The network part was built first. So all these people that have had their voices suppressed, like your I don't know, pick anyone that has been kicked off of YouTube or Vimeo for talking about machines or vaccines,
Yeah.
or even Jesus. They've been kicked off of there, canceled out. Now they're over here, so we have a safe place where they don't have their platform pulled. That's our network part. The social media part is coming out probably in a month or two.
Okay.
And that's the part where people can go, like the Twitter part of it. Right now, for me, the media part of it, so we would have a voice. We have millions of people on there now. And so when I talk, the word's getting out instead of people like Fox that don't let the word out.
Right.
Suppresses. So now at least I have the terrible media that bashes me every day, and I'm able to talk on my own platform and put out stuff that doesn't get censored. It's our First Amendment right to free speech. Like Alan Dershowitz said, he's one of my attorneys. He said,
really?
You know, Mike, this will be the most important case for our First Amendment right of free speech in history, because they only used lawfare one other time in 1798.
Wow.
That's where they use lawfare to suppress. So if you get, it'll be amazing if on your show, if you could say Dominion, 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 or Smartmatic, Smartmatic, Smartmatic,
Mike, I appreciate your time so much. If this doesn't work out, are you open to the idea that maybe Joe Biden just won? Or are you even theoretically open to that?
David, I put everything I had on. You're going to watch it too. So I would really like it if you came and brought a cyber guy and tried to win the $5 million prize.
Wow.
I know in the beginning here you kind of mocked it. I'll bet you 25,000. I know you don't believe it. The people don't believe it.
That was serious. I would bet you 25.
I have an invite to the symposium. And you can send your own cyber guy, win the $5 million prize. You can expand your audience.
I'm traveling on that day.
There is no chance. There is 100% no chance that this didn't happen, because I'm showing evidence. You need to understand. Packet captures, I have it for the whole election. I have it in my possession. It's like, is this a phone? Yes, it's a phone. That's why it's going to be a 9-0 vote from the Supreme Court.
Wow.
Because you're not even asking them about anything that's subjective. This is the evidence. It's like you and I taking a picture in the 1970s where you couldn't alter it.
Right.
You can't alter it. You can't change it. It shows everything in detail because you have the packet captures. It's like, why in Arizona did they want to give up the routers? Because those show the packet captures. If you ask any cyber guy in the world, if you have a cyber attack, which we have all the time on private businesses, the government, everything, and we just had a gas line one. These cyber experts that I hired to validate this evidence, remember, I've spent about $12 million, $15 million now of my own money to validate all this evidence so that I can sit here and tell you, I've already had the people, the best in the world, look at it, and they said, these are people that protect our country, and said, this is 100%. I said, it's not 99.9. They said, no, 100%. I said, well, when you have a cyber attack or breach, do you need more? They said, no, if you have the packet captures, you have it all.
Wow. Mike Lindell, CEO and inventor of MyPillow. Mike, you've really said it all. We will be watching. We will be waiting for what will happen over the next month or two. I really appreciate your time and telling us your perspective today.
Yeah, if everybody can get to, everyone needs to watch this. So if you watch frankspeech.com and you watch it anytime during those 72 hours, that's all you're going to need. And you're going to be worried about our country. You're going to go, David, you'll be the first one to call me. I'll give you my direct number. You can go, Mike, what are we going to do?
I will be watching, Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David.
If you value what we do at The David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind-the-scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial-free daily show, as well as special discounts on merch, including hats, hoodies, mugs, and T-shirts. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. All right, let's cover a couple of other things in the limited time we have left today. Thanks to that wacky and long interview with MyPillow, MyPillow founder Mike Lindell. We've been wondering, sort of like what is going to happen depending on what does or doesn't happen in August or September. Of course, there's going to be no reinstatement of Donald Trump. We are starting to get some data points that they are planning something. And I have one video to look at here with you today. This is a MAGA organizer named Matt Brainerd, affiliated with an organization called Look Ahead America. He was on with Steve Bannon and seems to be saying that September 18th is going to be a date on which they are going back to the Capitol. Of course, the Capitol being the place where the Trump riots took place. So let's listen to that.
Actually going to make some news on your show today. We have our next rally planned. It's in the middle of September, September 18th, and it's going to be huge. And what's going to define it is where it's going to take place.
Right.
We're going back to the Capitol.
So understand, whether you consider this an overt or a more sort of implicit signal about what they're talking about, he's saying we're going to redo January 6th. Now, to what extent it's going to be redone, we don't yet know.
Right where it started on September 18th. And we're going to push back against the phony narrative that there was an insurrection. We're going to provide the kind of evidence that Nancy Pelosi won't allow to be presented at her select committee, showing that this was a largely peaceful crowd, showing that this was a crowd that was egged on in many ways by Capitol Police throwing flashbang grenades into a relatively peaceful crowd. Relatively
peaceful is an interesting way to describe it. Relative to what?
We're going to present the evidence that Ashley Babbitt's death should be investigated. We're going to demand...
Now, remember, Ashley Babbitt's death was investigated. It was investigated. We have a full report about it.
Release of 14,000 hours of videotape that the federal government has been suppressing.
That's another one of these where we have, even if you grant that not every minute of video has been released, we already have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of video. And so the idea that only the video that's being kept secret, as they claim, is what would change our entire perception of what took place, that's another false narrative that they're pushing.
So we're going right back to the Capitol because we're not afraid, and we're going to press our case. And I believe that at that, we're going to have some very high-profile speakers there. We're going to have members of Congress speak. We're going to continue to raise the volume and push back against this phony narrative and demand justice for these political prisoners.
Justice for political prisoners. Can you imagine? So if you check out the website for this organization, Look Ahead America, they said they've announced their next rally. It's called Justice for J6, if you can imagine something more depraved. And they say it will be at the Capitol on September 18th at noon. So much reason to be worried. And hopefully this is something that law enforcement is paying attention to. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. I received a video from a concerned citizen, one of our viewers in Dothan. I think it's pronounced Dothan, maybe Dothan, Alabama. Marjorie Taylor Greene was in Alabama about 10 days ago at an event at which filming was not allowed. But our viewer, this concerned citizen, surreptitiously filmed. And in this event, sponsored by the Alabama Federation of Republican Women, Marjorie Taylor Greene was the keynote speaker. She suggests shooting vaccinators if indeed people start coming door to door offering vaccines. This is a sitting member of Congress. This is video provided exclusively to us. Take a look at this. Take a listen to this.
And one more thing on that, you lucky people here in Alabama might get a knock on your door because I hear Alabama might be one of the most unvaccinated states in the nation.
Guys, they're cheering for being unvaccinated. They're cheering for being unvaccinated. They're cheering because they haven't been vaccinated.
Well, Joe Biden wants to come talk to you guys. He's going to be sending one of his police state friends to your front door.
I call them nurses, police state friends. I would call them nurses.
Knock on the door, take down your name, your address, your family members' names, your phone numbers, your cell phone numbers, probably ask for your social security number and whether you've taken the vaccine or not. Yeah, well, what they don't know is in the South, we all love our Second Amendment rights.
Can you imagine?
And we're not real big on strangers showing up on our front door, are we?
We're big on our Second Amendment rights, and we're not big on strangers showing up at our front door. This is a sitting member of Congress joking about the idea. Is it a joke, I guess is the question, alluding to the idea of if people come around offering vaccines to keep us safe, to reduce the chance that we die, guns would be what are deployed against those individuals. A sitting member of Congress. So thanks to Our viewer who is asked to remain anonymous, who filmed this surreptitiously. Again, that was July 23rd in Dothan, Alabama. It was an event, actually. Mo Brooks also was there. Mo Brooks is the guy who, despite saying that the January 6th insurrection was no big deal, we found out he was wearing body armor that day. He also spoke at this event, and absolutely horrifying. Spread the video far and wide. We do want to make sure as many people as possible see that. We have a voicemail number that you can call. That number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Here is again a caller continuing to accuse me of suppressing the truth. About what? It's not even clear. I think he's referring to COVID because that's what he's always referring to.
Hey, what's up, David? It's Eric from Mass again. You love to make fun of my accent. How you doing, man?
What?
I just wanted to say, with all the stuff coming out that you're suppressing, there's only two options here. And this is good. Either you're too stupid to realize it, or you're in on it. And, buddy, I would never call you stupid.
Yeah. You know, one of the really, I mean, there's a lot of sad stuff here. Typically, when this guy calls in, he'll refer to something like, David, you're covering up that millions of people have died from the vaccine or something like that. And it's like, no, I'm not covering that up. That's not real. But there's this other really weird thing that's being lodged at people who just like report the science about what's going on with the virus and vaccines, which is they suggest that, you know, by saying I'm in on it, what exactly would I be in on? What advantage would there be to me? Like, no, there's no financial advantage to just telling the truth about the vaccines. There's no personal advantage other than, yes, it's true. If more people get vaccinated, I'm safer and people I know are safer. Part of the conspiracy that assumes that, you know, this idea of complicit in lying about the vaccines and COVID is that there would be some advantage conferred by it. And of course, they can never really explain what that advantage is. But no, nothing is being covered up. And by the way, in some upcoming show, increasingly people are pointing to the VAERS system, VAERS, and saying, look at all of these reports of people who died from the vaccine in the VAERS system. I'm thinking of doing a video where I'll show you on a screen share. I'll go through the VAERS system and show you how easy it is to just say, my brother died from the vaccine and submit it. And of course, it's not I wouldn't actually submit it. I would just show you how easy it would be to do. This is what people are doing. People are submitting bogus reports to the VAERS system. And then those bogus reports are being used by anti-vaccine individuals and media outlets and pointed to and said, look at all of these reports. Anybody can submit a report. There's no checking whatsoever that is done. On the bonus show today, we will talk about, you remember that Missouri couple of lawyers who were waving guns last June during the Black Lives Matter protests? They both pleaded guilty to misdemeanors. They've been pardoned by the Missouri governor. Yeah, the McCloskeys. We'll talk about that on the bonus show. Secondly, we appear to be between 2 and 5 weeks away from FDA full approval of the coronavirus vaccine made by Pfizer. Will this really get some of these anti-vaxxers vaccinated? I don't know. We're going to talk about it. And lastly, the Japanese government is starting a program of publicly naming people who are breaking quarantine rules in Japan. Is this a good idea? Could it lead to disaster? What would happen if the United States did it? All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Sign up and get instant access by making yourself a member at joinpacman.com. I'll speak to you then. Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. Blinkist is the app that helps you become a more well-rounded person by letting you read or listen to an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. You can try it for free and get 25% off a subscription by going to Blinkist.com/David Pakman.